8 years ago, the tandem of electronic provocateur Nicholas Jarre and singer-songwriter Dave Harrington came together and released Psychic, an album that was exemplary in its sonic ambitions and very subtle atmospheric qualities. The driving sound for a majority of the record were the cloudy electronics and tinges of psychedelic rock, with Dave providing his fair share of vocal contributions that, in hindsight, weren't all that stand out, but they assisted in accentuating that atmosphere. Nicholas since then has been on a huge hot streak with cerebral solo albums and the forward-thinking house movement of Against All Logic. So when winds of a new Darkside album rolled around, I was intrigued to see how they would sound now, nearly 8 years later. And the sound of this album is much more grounded, very rootsy, and pretty filmic as well. The instrumentals and compositions would work perfectly as the score to like old western pieces of media like Red Dead Redemption or Deadwood, or even Hunt Showdown. The opening Narrow Road is very nomadic in its presentation. You get these gritty, dribbling hand drums that churn the song forward, along with the morning chord pulls and the frantic acoustic strum breaks. The track's progression embodies the stages of a journey from walking along a footpath to resting at night to a curious, spry outro that is fitted with some sound distortions to boot as well. It's a great opener followed by The Limit, which shares that nomadic feeling, but it definitely has more of a melodic presence to it. The bass line here is integral to tethering the track's other moving pieces together with a slow walking groove. The duo then try their hand at storytelling with Lawmaker, which talks about a power-hungry doctor who is seemingly whipping a town into shape by ridding it of its subjective sinners. It is pretty brooding, and there are some instrumental breaks to limit the monotony the core of the track has to offer. The title track is a dim, mostly instrumental song where it sounds like I'm in the middle of the southern woods at night trying to hide from my spectral pursuers. The instances of like these sparse chimes are really chilling as well. The 9-minute monster that is Inside Is Out There doesn't fail to put the listener in like a deciduous hypnosis. The intricate composition and arrangements of the drums, shakers, background effects, and echoey vocals held my attention the entire way through, which is pretty impressive given that there's nothing really of flash or engagement happening on the surface. Liberty Bell gets the gears going after a majority of the track list up until this point have been more sonically invested in setting a soundscape. Not saying this one doesn't do it due to its last leg, but the rolling drums and stark chords are a nice change of pace to vary up the album a little bit. I can also say the same for the closer Only Young, which has a vocally led dreamy beginning, which then progresses into a brisk sunset jam before teetering into the woods with a 2-minute bare outro, which in my opinion wasn't needed, but it doesn't hurt the song in any shape or form. There were a couple of songs that I didn't find to be all that strong. The Question Is to See It All at first had me hooked, but after multiple listens, the foundation isn't that dense once I got past that initial allure of like the somewhat mystical ambiance. The other elements of the song, like the vocals and progression, really didn't do much to fortify that initial feeling I had. I also feel very similarly about I Am the Echo, where the parts and pieces of the song are interesting in themselves, but hearing them work together in full led to an underwhelming experience overall. But I thought this album was pretty good. I definitely prefer Psychic as it has more to offer me personally in terms of what it brings to the table. I do admire the extra effort on this album to put a spotlight on the vocals, even if sometimes the light is a bit too dim in those spots. I would have also loved to hear a bit more ambition with this sound, as some of the tracks follow the same vein as one another, especially structurally. But for what the album sets out to accomplish, it brings home a satisfying result in my book. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down below, and I will see you on the next video. I'd give it a...